Hello, Poe fans, and welcome to tonight's Poe Discussions, where, as you can see, we have three, count them, one, two, three special guests. Now, one you might already recognize is Dr. Jeff. He's been with us before. So tonight he's going to be a special guest slash co-host because his two buddies down here, Mr. Larry Underwood and Mr. Jonathan Lampley, they are bros together and have been together for many years, so they know a lot about each other. So they're going to help us out with getting us to know more about them. So, our three, like I said, Larry Underwood, you might know him as Dr. Gangrene, and I believe he was a radio host beginning in 1999, correct?
TV host, TV horror movie host.
TV horror. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Jeff, you were the radio host, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I got those backwards. I apologize. And then, Jonathan, you are a writer. You are,
Well,
and
I'm
do you,
also a professor of English at Alabama A&M in Huntsville. Well, as I
nice.
mentioned earlier, like Jeff and Larry, I'm from Nashville and
Mhm.
went to TSU with both of them.
Okay.
Uh, we've
Oh,
collaborated many times on various horror and fanboy related
hey.
activities.
That's the truth. Jonathan and I were president and vice president of the science fiction club at MTSU. Our nerd credentials run deep.
They
Oh, wow.
are Gamma Sci-Fi.
All right. I like
Alas,
it.
it did not survive us, but we were charter members and
There you
we
go.
kept it going for many years.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with the horror fraternity, especially when you go to school together. That's the thing.
Especially at MTSU in the 80s.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And so, Jonathan, why don't you just start out our night by giving us an introduction a little bit more? Because you just said a little bit about what you're doing now, but give us a little bit more background because we like to connect it to Poe, but you guys, since you're horror, that in itself connects it to Poe. So why don't you kick us off and give us a little introduction about you and all the cool things that go with it?
Well, like I said, I'm from Nashville, went to MTSU where I got all my degrees, majoring in English and history.
Mhm.
I've taught all over Middle Tennessee, Northern Georgia, and now Northern Alabama. Uh, as I said, I'm at Alabama A&M right now.
Mhm.
Uh, I am a co-author of the amazing colossal book of horror trivia, which you
Cool.
may have seen.
Oh, very cool.
Jeff
There
has
you
a
go.
copy of it.
Nice.
Uh, Probably the one that's most relevant to you guys is my book, Women in the Horror Films of Vincent Price. And
Cool.
there's that. Now, that is an expansion of my doctoral dissertation, which was women in the Edgar Allan Poe horror films that Vincent Price did with Roger Corman and Richard Matheson and
Mhm.
other legendary figures like that.
Cool.
Uh, I've got articles in several different fan, and academic, and professional uh, uh, journals and magazines and so forth. I co-edited a collection of essays on fandom and fan culture called Fan Culture. There it is there.
Nice.
Jeff did the chapter on Dark Shadows.
Mhm.
Nice.
So I've been a horror and pop culture guy for many, many years.
Oh,
And
very nice.
especially Vincent Price and the great horror stars of yesteryear, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee,
Mhm.
Boris
Oh, yeah.
Karloff, Bela Lugosi. We don't
The
have
good.
anybody like those guys anymore, do we?
Oh,
No,
absolutely not. And
no.
I'm a little over halfway through your book, Jonathan, and I'm really enjoying it.
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah. I was trying to get it finished before the episode and I ran out of time.
Well, I
It's
appreciate you giving it the old college try.
Yeah, no, it's great. It really delves deeper into the films and I like that it's like so much more of just the Poe movies, even though I love those, but I've seen so many of the other Vincent Price movies, and just it really has given me a lot to think about more so. So making me want to go back and rewatch a lot of them.
We should accomplish that.
Yeah. So thank you.
So that leads me into the question, Jonathan. You said that this was an expansion off of your dissertation where you were concentrating more along the Edgar Allan Poe women. So what kind of spurred you into choosing that for your dissertation? You know, I know we're all like horror people. We love horror, especially Edgar Allan Poe, but what specifically drew you to that for your dissertation?
Well, I don't think there's any one thing that led me to it. Obviously, being a fan of Vincent Price and
Mhm.
Edgar Allan Poe and classic horror films,
Mhm.
I wanted to do something associated with one of those things. Uh, a lot of people never complete their graduate degrees if they have to write a thesis or a dissertation.
Right.
It can really sap the time and energy, even of people who are writers or have a strong background in writing and literature and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I had to pick something that I wouldn't get tired of
Cool.
because it was vitally important that I complete the degree.
Mhm.
Also, I try to write about films and popular culture and so forth, trying to hit a happy medium, if you will, between
Mhm.
popular and academic writing. The two things can be very uh, hostile to one another.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Too much popular writing can boil down to I like it, it was good. I didn't like it, it sucked.
Yeah.
It doesn't really tell you anything, does it?
No.
But academics are often encouraged to write uh, in a labored, overwordy style
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
because they think they're only supposed to talk to other academics. Even in the humanities, this is an issue. One of
Mhm.
my college professors explained that the humanities was sort of being the little brother, little sister to STEM and engineering and those highly technical fields where you have no choice but to sort of talk in a lot of jargon.
Mhm.
Now, in the years since I completed my dissertation, 2007, I am seeing more and more popular writing that is informed by literary and film theory.
Nice.
Uh, some of the leading theories are that people are being exposed to them. They may not be aware they're being exposed to them, but
Mhm.
because I have this academic background, I see it.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot
Mhm.
of good stuff out there. Uh, there's a lot of stuff that just makes me shake my head.
I understand.
And
Trust me.
uh, frankly, I think we get uh, maybe a little too much writing that reflects the personal interests
Mhm.
and obsessions of the authors, using a critical lens. Um, it's a difficult question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is a valid interpretation of a text? Well, everybody comes to a text and he or she has his or her own opinion about the text and what it means. And
Mhm.
I think that works as long as you can support it with evidence from the text.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so when I wrote the dissertation and later the Vincent Price book, I really had to do a deep dive into these films and look at them scene for scene, really.
Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know if they were intentional. Uh,
Mhm.
some I think were, some may have been accidental, but I think they still resonate with us in various ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but basically it comes down to I had to do something that would keep my interest until I could finish it. And of course, I wanted something that I could publish. Too many people's theses and dissertations sit on a library shelf and nobody ever reads them. I didn't want to spend all
Exactly.
that time and effort and no one ever read it.
Absolutely.
So Carmen, you're one anyway.
Right.
Yeah. But it makes perfectly good sense because looking at through, like you're saying, the lens of the academia versus that of popular culture, most people don't put those together. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoyed the most after we met Dr. Jeff. And I keep saying Dr. Jeff because Carmen's husband's name is Jeff, and we've just been
That's it.
we've just become a thing. And
It's Jeff.
so yeah. So Jeff, when I was introduced to his dark shadows and everything, and I went, most of the time I don't really, do really see people that choose those types to put the academia onto it,
Mhm.
move it into that direction. Because, like you said, there's probably not going to be a lot of people interested in it in that avenue. But at the same time, I think it helps deconstruct it, but not too much. It kind of helps people that maybe don't understand it to begin with, like horror, the genre itself. Not, most people when they think of horror to nowadays, and I'm using that in a general term, okay, horror, they just think it's a lot of blood, a lot of gore, just throw it, cutting people's heads off and all that kind of stuff. But there's like no story. I mean, am I the only one that thinks that? Because I mean, some horror is good nowadays, but some of it is like, yeah, you're just wanting to be trendy, I guess is what I'm trying to get to. So, I like it when like you were talking about Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff and the Vincent Price, the man, because that voice will always be, to me, the epitome of horror to me, because I can always hear his voice. So I can see why you would choose that for a dissertation, especially, I mean, Poe and his women. Because, what better thing? You've got the romance slash horror all mixed in together.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing that with us about, having told us why some people like you choose those because yeah, writing a dissertation, thesis, whatever, you want something that's going to keep your focus and not want you to, throw it at your professors and your, panel that have to judge you and go, "Ah," or just give up on it in general, because it can get daunting. So, but hey, and hopefully when Carmen finishes your book, she'll pass it my way so I can.
Well,
I looked it up on Kindle Unlimited. I just haven't had a chance to start it yet. I do my reading now on electronics and it makes me mad, but I was like, I just love the smell of a book. But anyway, so now let's go to Dr. Gangrene. Okay, I just love that name. It's like it like brings a whole world of connotation when I say Dr. Gangrene. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of, ew, but okay, cool. So Larry, why don't you tell us about your latest awards
yes.
and give us a little bit of background on how you got to be Dr. Gangrene. I think everybody wants to know that. So lay it on us.
Sure, sure. So, Dr. Gangrene is a TV horror host character that I've been doing since 1999. So, last year was my 25th anniversary.
Congratulations.
And a little bit of thank you, a little serendipity there. It was also the 20th year that I've been doing this local show called the Horror Hootenanny, which is a rock and roll Halloween party with bands and costumes every October in Nashville. So it was the 20th year for that. And the 20th anniversary of hosting movies at Wonderfest. So that's a convention in Louisville. And every year I host a movie there with the crowd. So it was the 20th anniversary of that. So everything kind of converged. So it was kind of the perfect year. And last year was also the year that I was able to push a recommendation for the Nashville Historical Commission to honor Nashville's really best known horror host, Sir Cecil Creep, from the 1970s. They put a historical marker up. So I was able to convince them that that was a good idea. So very excited about that, to see that actually come to life. So all this stuff happened last year. So it was the perfect year for the Rondo Awards to put me in the Rondo Award Monster Kid Hall of Fame. The Rondo Award, thank you. The Rondos are an annual award for horror excellence. It's in all fields: writing, music, movies, horror host, you name it. There's categories there for it. And then they also have a Hall of Fame, which is not a voted category. That's just a selected category by the Academy, if you will. But it's fan voted, so they put a ballot out with all these different entries on there, and every year they select winners. And so I was very honored to be inducted into the Monster Kid Hall of Fame.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you asked how I got started. Started this back in 1999 because I wanted to do a show like Sir Cecil's show. Sir Cecil Creep was our host in the 1970s. Nobody was doing it on TV. And I thought, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. So started on cable. Yeah. Started on cable access, and I'm back there now. For a while during the 2000s, I moved over to our local CW station, which was the WB at the time. And during the course of my 8 years or so that I was on there, it switched names from the WB to the CW. But hosted movies there for a while too. So, so that's how I got started. Just creative endeavor that I wanted to do and went for it.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite film that you've shown as Dr. Gangrene?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's two types of movies that I like to show. There's absolute classic films, and then there's absolute dogs. They're both really fun in and of themselves. I can't tell you which is more fun, because the classics you have this reverence for and you want to show them. I don't get to show those very often because I'm showing public domain stuff. I show dogs mostly. And of those, when I was on the CW, so the classics, probably Night of the Living Dead is probably the most classic movie that I've shown, which is absolute masterpiece.
Yes.
But of the dogs, probably my favorite one was called Aerobicide, which was
never heard of that.
it's also known as Killer Workout, and it's exactly what Killer Workout sounds like. It's a slasher. It's made in the 80s. It has spandex and aerobics and a slasher, killing people with a giant clothespin. I mean, it's a safety pin. Ridiculous.
Okay, I suddenly got this wonderful vision of Richard Simmons, workout going horribly wrong.
Yeah, now,
the clothespin involved.
Yeah, it's all 80s, so it's all women in tight spandex, which is horrible. It's horrible to look at. It's terrible.
That would definitely be in the dog category, I would have to say.
But those movies are fun, and you can't take them seriously. They're not meant to be taken. The filmmakers themselves didn't take it seriously, so you just roll with it. And as a host, you don't mind mocking it and having fun with it, because it doesn't have the reverence of something like a Dracula or a Frankenstein, which turn public domain in 2 years. 2 years. I'm hanging in there.
That's
we get
awesome.
1931. If it wasn't for that, can we cuss on here?
Sure.
Okay. If it wasn't for, it's not cussing, but if it wasn't for that little prick, Sonny Bono, and fucking Disney, we would have already had it be public domain 20 years ago, because Disney paid Sonny Bono. It's called the Sonny Bono Act. You can look it up, to push through legislation which put a memoriam of hold on all public domain movies for 20 freaking years. So instead of being at 1928 and back right now, or 1929 and back right now, we would be at 1949. Everything from 1949 back would be public domain. Oh, The
Yeah.
movies I could have shown.
Real. Yeah.
Well, look on the bright
Yeah.
side, Larry. Sonny Bono ain't going to be your problem anymore.
That's right. Well, I'm just waiting for Disney to pay off somebody else before those Universals. Yeah, I'm just like, hopefully not. Fingers crossed, because 2 more
Yeah.
years I can legally host Dracula and Frankenstein.
Oh, that would be
Yay.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there for those because
Yep.
Frankenstein is one of my favorites. So I
The
love
thought
it.
that almost everything from 1950 back would be public domain just blows my mind.
Because there's so much. There's so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be heartbreaking to know that if they tried it and then they pushed it even more, and it's like you won't have it public domain again for like another 20 years. I mean,
Yeah.
why? Why are they doing that? I mean, why
Well,
would you block
it's
that?
simple. To protect the mouse. That's what it was
Yeah.
all about.
Okay.
They kept Mickey out of public domain for an extra 20 years. Now Steamboat Willie is in the public domain, so it
Yeah.
finally happened. But they were, milking it for all the money they could get.
Now, Mickey
Yeah.
Mouse and the other Disney properties are still protected by copyright or trademark, aren't they?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
they
Yes.
are. So you can't use like the current version of Mickey Mouse. You can't, but you could use the Steamboat Willie. I believe that's what it's called. The version
Yeah,
that
Steamboat.
original.
Yeah, because he was the first incarnation or whatever you want to call it of Disney, his idea for the mouse to begin with. And so yeah, I think that's one of the reasons they didn't fight so much to, try to keep him out of the public domain, because it's just the now mouse that they're trying to protect. And I can understand that. But at the same time, why didn't they make it specifically just for the mouse?
Right.
Since Jonathan said, they are trademarked. So I think that's a little bit different than copyright. I mean, I could be wrong because that's not my domain, but
Well, I mean, it's like we've had a slasher, a Winnie the Pooh slasher. Winnie the Pooh fell into public domain either last year or the year before, and immediately someone did a Winnie the Pooh horror movie, which is ridiculous. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
it
see it,
was
but I saw there was a preview for it.
advertisement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I just
There's something called Screamboat coming out. Is that a real thing?
it is. That's by the guys that did that Terrifier movie.
Oh,
So-
okay.
And there's also Popeye the Slayer Man.
Oh,
Okay.
oh my
Okay,
goodness.
that's just wrong in so many ways. I can't. I mean, some of the, I guess, how can you say, some of the imagination of recreating something that is maybe just a cute kids thing into a horror thing might be okay if you do it correctly, because I mean that would be fun in my opinion. Because not everything is all sunshine and roses. I mean, think of Grimm's fairy tales. The original Grimm's fairy tales were not happy endings in any way, because they were the true horror movie, the true horror stories at the beginning.
Well,
So
I tell you, Popeye kind of makes sense. I mean, you think about a crusty old pirate with one eye running around killing. That actually kind of works. Like,
It does. It does.
and with his pipe, I can see him taking people out with that pipe one day. Exactly. That makes perfect sense. So, so Larry, there was one other thing I was going to ask you about the Rondo. Make sure I say it correctly. Rondo Awards, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
And the Rondo Awards, just to clarify one more time, they are named after Rondo Hatton, who is
Yes.
a universal actor. He was a guy who had acromegaly, which is a disease that causes your features to look kind of twisted and monstrous. And Universal used him in a lot of monster roles. And the Rondo Award folks decided to name the award after him just because they thought it was cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, I remember now, did you say how long the Rondo Awards have actually been in place?
It's
I
been
can't
20
remember.
years. I know, 2021, something. I forgot what
Okay.
he said, which anniversary. I want to say 21, but I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure on that.
Yeah.
I'm
I thought
also
I.
a member of the Horror Host Hall of Fame, so I'm a two-time Hall of Famer.
Ooh,
Oh,
nice.
nice. Very cool.
Two-time Hall of Famer. There you go.
Yeah.
Horror host. I can't say that 5 times fast. That's just bad. So, okay.
I
You
was a
did.
guest. I was
Say
a
it five
guest
times
on
fast.
Larry's. I was a guest on Larry's show Chiller Cinema back in the year 2000. He came here to
Nice.
my house and did a little tour of my collections. And then 22 years later, I was on his new show, Dr. Gangrene's Sanitarium, because he was showing a Dan Curtis movie, Scream of the Wolf, that happens to
Oh,
be in the public domain.
Oh,
And so
nice.
we did a little interview about that.
oh,
Yep. I
And
came to your
and
house. Why? Well, we shot 2 episodes when I was there
oh
because we
yeah,
did the
right.
Dr. Lucifer episode and I think the Dark
Oh,
Shadows or just a general house
Right.
visit.
And just as Larry reveres Sir Cecil Creep, I revere Nashville's very first horror host, Dr. Lucifer, Lucifer
mhm.
with a U, played by Ken Bramming, a TV and radio personality with whom I worked at WAMB Radio. Um, I can tell you more about Dr. Lucifer at some other time, but one thing that's really interesting is that when Creature Feature, starring Sir Cecil Creep, came on,
Mhm.
the opening announcer for the show was Ken Bramming, Dr. Lucifer. And
Oh,
every once in a while, in Sir Cecil Creep's skits, some of which were written by Pat Sajak,
mhm.
Sir Cecil Creep mentioned Dr. Lucifer, that he got a letter from him or a package or something. So, as a fanboy, I was thrilled to know that Sir Cecil Creep and Dr. Lucifer exist in the same universe.
that's cool.
The creep and Lucifer. I just
Yes.
it took me a minute. And I was like, oh, that would be bad. It's like, oh, welcome, the creep and the Lucifer. We're good.
And back in 1999, when Dr. Lampley co-wrote the amazing colossal book of horror trivia, he
Mhm.
and I were on Chris Clark's talk show on Channel
Mhm.
5 Plus. It's still
Ooh.
a cable channel, and it's still on, I think, every night at 8 o'clock. Chris Clark doesn't do it anymore. But we went on, and Dr. Lampley, of course, talked all about his new book and horror movies in general, and then I chimed in every once in a while. And we learned that Chris Clark himself was is a big fan. That he collects movies on reels of film and has a projection room in his house. So he was very excited to talk with us about classic horror and sci-fi.
Hmm.
And then at some point in the 2000s, Dr. Lampley came to WAMB one Saturday night when I was doing my air shift, and we did a little interview about horror. I don't know what the impetus of that was. Maybe you had just written something, but I remember we talked about Bela Lugosi and Bram Stoker and H.P. Lovecraft. As an interviewer, I asked you on the air, who is H.P. Lovecraft? Now, of course, I knew the answer, but I knew that many of our listeners did not know.
Mhm.
So I wanted to draw you out and have you tell a little bit about the backgrounds of the authors and actors about whom we were talking. So I go way back with both of these gentlemen, and we've collaborated on other projects in the past and coming up in the future. And speaking of popular culture and academia, Dr. Lampley and I often attend an academic conference called PCAS, PCAS, Popular Culture Association in the South, where
Oh,
everybody is there. All the, teachers and scholars are giving papers about movies, TV, sports, politics, food, comic books, music, just
Everything, just
everything.
anything
yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
Very
Oh,
nice.
So
wow.
so he and I have talked about Dark Shadows and Dan Curtis and Christopher Lee and Creature from the Black Lagoon and anything you can think of. So there is something like that. It meets somewhere in a southern city like New Orleans, Savannah every year.
And it's been in
You said it's
Nashville several times.
Yeah. PCAS.
PCAS.
Right.
Okay.
Popular Culture Association in the South.
And it will be in Huntsville for the first time this year,
Oh,
Yes,
which
in
I'm
early
very
October.
thrilled about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Huntsville.
I hope
I
many
think
of
we
my
need to look that up.
colleagues, many of whom are pop culture and horror fanboy goodness type of people, I hope they will present. I
Mhm.
plan on celebrating, speaking of Vincent Price, one of
Mhm.
his most divisive pictures turns 55 this year. I think it's a
Wow.
masterpiece. It's called Scream and Scream Again. Are you familiar with it?
I
I
am.
thought you were going to say it's not the size that counts.
It
Now
is.
we're gonna
I
we're gonna
watch
let you
it.
show that one when it's PD in another couple of years, Larry.
Yeah.
If it's not already, it
Okay.
probably is.
Yeah. It's.
That's
I
a
I,
don't.
real,
yeah. Go
that
ahead.
is a real Vincent Price movie, by the way.
Mhm.
Yes. I have heard of it, but I don't ever remember actually watching it. I think
Yeah.
my brother, who's older than I am, he was a big fan of the genre back in the day. And so I will definitely, you said Scream again? Is that what
Scream
it?
Scream
and
and
Scream
scream
Again.
again.
Okay, Scream and Scream again. I'll definitely, I'm going to look that one up because, like I said, I love me some Vincent Price.
Well,
Now,
let me warn you. I'm assuming Carmen hasn't got to that chapter yet.
I
yeah,
have not.
Uh,
I have not.
it's you have to not be disappointed by the main attraction of the film, which
okay.
is not that it's Vincent Price. It's Vincent Price,
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Lee, and Peter Cushing.
Mhm.
Oh,
And that's one reason why it has a bad reputation. Peter Cushing is literally in one scene.
Okay.
mm,
Uh, Christopher Lee is in 3 or 4 scenes and only has one scene with Vincent at the end. But
okay.
it's a remarkable film. As I say in the book, it's the only vampire slash serial killer slash Cold War film slash British police procedural ever made. And it's
Okay.
actually based on a pulp novel, which is even more twisted and messed up than the movie.
Okay.
And we even have, I'm in a Facebook group, I Love Scream and Scream Again. There's a very small group of fans.
Mhm.
It's a very divisive picture. Many people say it's confusing.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's not to me. Of course, I've seen it 50 million times. But it's a
Yeah.
film where there's all these disparate storylines that come together.
It's
Nice.
three stories, really. Three, and they all cross with each other.
There's at least 3 stories there.
Yeah.
There's also the part about the space aliens, which was apparently cut out.
Mhm.
Okay.
Uh, uh, Christopher Lee always insisted he and Vincent and were space aliens, but that's not actually in the movie. But it's in the book. But this is how confusing the movie is. If you watch the trailer, there's a part where they say starring the masters of horror, and they show Vincent Price and Christopher Lee, and then when it comes time to show Peter Cushing, it ain't Peter Cushing.
Oh,
It's Marshall Jones, who is another character in the movie.
Okay.
And it's an
okay.
AIP film. The people who did the Poe and Price pictures,
Mhm.
and you would
Mm-hmm.
think they would know who Peter Cushing was.
Yeah.
But
Well,
oh,
whoever
and
cut
it's
the
actually a
trailer.
collaboration between AIP and Amicus. You may know them.
Oh,
They made Dr. Terror's House of Horrors and Tales from the Crypt that Larry has the poster for and all of that.
Mhm.
And by the way, I don't know if Jeff or Larry, if you heard anything about this. I've heard, Hammer has risen from the grave, so to speak, with new
Yes.
ownership and management. I am hearing reports that someone is trying to reboot Amicus Pictures.
Oh,
Have
It's a guy
y'all heard
named,
about this?
yes, it's a guy named Laurie Brewster. I follow him on
That's
social
it.
media, and he's got his heart in the right place. They bought a building. They're in Scotland, and they
Mhm.
have gutted the inside of it, and they're building Gothic sets inside of it to shoot a new Amicus anthology and other films going forward.
Oh
And
wow.
they are they are trying to do this to pay respect to Amicus of the past, and they really seem to have their heart in the right place.
So let me ask you this. Are they going to try to reimagine what they've already done into a more modern take, or are they just going to redo?
They're going to do new movies
okay.
under the Amicus banner.
But they're not going to remake Tales from the Crypt or Dr. Terror's House of Horrors or any of that, as far as you know.
The first film is called In the Grip of Terror, and it's an anthology.
Okay. Oh, nice.
All right. Well,
that sounds like an Amicus picture, all right.
Yeah. That's the one thing I hate when they try to come in and redo, and it kind of makes the previous where everybody's in love, and then they start hating it because you're ruining what everybody had loved about it. So I'm glad that you clarified that, Larry, that they're going to do new. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they stay that way. Okay. And so that leads back to, and I hope this PCAS, I had to look to see, make sure because I started to call it CAPS, and I'm like, no, that's the wrong way. PCAS. I wonder if they have any kind of Edgar Allan Poe thing, Carmen. We might need to go hang out.
No.
Yeah.
I am quite sure if you want to submit a paper to them about doing a Poe themed podcast, if you're willing to pay their fee to join and present, they will cheerfully take your money and put you on the they'll put you on the program. They have independent scholars. So yes, they would have no problem with you going attending and presenting on what you guys do, and I think it would probably be very well attended.
Okay.
I have presented on some of the Poe films before, I think, haven't I, Jeff?
Yes.
I know I've done Vincent Price, and
you have talked about various chapters in your book, and Edgar Allan Poe, and sometimes
yes, The Conqueror Worm. I did that one year at PCAST, didn't I?
There are whole sessions devoted to Poe or Sherlock Holmes or comic books or horror movies or whatever, because 4 or 5 people are giving papers about that subject, Poe or Sherlock Holmes or Shakespeare, anything, Dickens. Dickens was popular culture when he was writing those continuing stories. So just about anything goes at PCAS.
Okay.
There have been scholars, English teachers, and so forth, who sort of put the popular culture stuff separate from the, for lack of a better phrase, real English stuff. But more and more, the popular culture and real stuff is mixing together, and more of it is becoming part of the public. And Jeff and I and people with a background in it, we see it. The average person who hasn't studied a lot of literary theory and whatnot may not be aware of it, but we're seeing it more and more and more. Just about everything is sort of taking this high literature thing and pop culture thing and mixing it together. A good example of this, you remember a few years ago when Pride and Prejudice and Zombies was the hit book.
Yes.
And they made a film of that, didn't they?
I believe they did.
Yes.
And then came Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, and all this sort of thing. So I'm quite sure. Oh, and I was a program chair for PCAST many years ago when it was in Wilmington, North Carolina. And as the guy who picked stuff, I picked everything. If the people were willing to, getting to Wilmington's a little bit like getting to Mordor. It's kind of a hard trip. Or it was then. There may be direct flights from Nashville now. But if people were willing to show up and pay their money, I put them on the schedule. And we had some random things that didn't fit anywhere. We made miscellaneous panels.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
And like I said, these were graduate students, undergraduate students in some cases, professors, as I said, so-called independent scholars. So I'm not on the PCAS committee right now. I've sort of been out of it for a few years. I'm hoping with it being in Huntsville to get back into it. Of course, a lot of the people that Jeff and I knew and hung out with back then, a lot of them are retired and some of them are deceased.
Mm.
But some of the old gang is still there, aren't they, Jeff?
Oh, yes, and I see them on Facebook too.
Well, so don't you think Carmen and Jeanie would be very welcome?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Make sure you give them the contact information,
yeah,
and
I will.
it's free to apply.
Okay.
And
Wonderful.
if they don't want to do it, I can't imagine why they wouldn't. It this intersectionality, I think, is the word of all these different cultural things. That's something the PCAS people are very interested in.
Okay.
And I think you guys would be very welcome there.
Okay.
Now they're going to want you to pay to go,
Right.
and the price is fairly steep. It's
Okay.
how much is it, Jeff? Do you remember this year? $200 and something.
Yes.
Okay.
I luckily I had about $10 knocked off because I'm retired, so I can go as the retired teacher. But it includes
I'm
the
retired.
banquet. It includes the banquet, I believe, doesn't it?
I think there's a banquet included and
Yeah.
a goodie bag with some the journal and things
Yeah.
like that.
Right. And food, laid out between sessions, snacking and things like that.
And
I
quite
just love it.
frankly, I think you would find new audiences for your podcast, and you would
That's what I was
certainly
going to say.
find more people to interview
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes.
because
Yeah, next year the Golden Globe Awards is adding a new category, Best Podcast.
oh,
Oh,
really?
So
wow.
that shows how podcasts are so ubiquitous and influential now. So
Absolutely.
I'll be interested to see what podcast wins the Golden Globe.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Well,
Yeah.
what do you know the dates of PCAS this year?
Oh,
October, isn't it?
yes, October 9, 10, and 11. Thursday, Friday,
So,
Saturday, October 9, 10, and 11.
Okay. All right.
so it's the week after the International Poe Fest.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The
Which
Right.
weekend after. So that'd be perfect.
yes, yeah, because we
Um,
attend the International Edgar Allan Poe Festival in Baltimore every year, and it's right around his death date. Sometimes it falls within it, and this year it's a few days before because of the way the weekend falls.
Well, Dr.
so that
Lampley and I have visited Poe's grave in Baltimore several times because in the late 1990s and early 2000s, we were participants at the FanX convention, which was held in Baltimore or somewhere nearby,
Okay.
which was all about classic horror. The guests were people from Hammer Films or Kevin McCarthy or
Okay.
Jackie Joseph or Robert Wise, people like that. But since we were in Baltimore, we always had to go to, the churchyard and see Poe's grave. And I often mentioned that in class, to my students when we were talking about Poe and saying how, back then the church was in the country, it was idyllic. But now, of course, tall buildings are built up all around the little
Yes.
church and the churchyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a really neat cemetery, and that I've been able to go down, they call it the catacombs, where the church was built over part of the graveyard, and you can go down underneath the what used to be the church and see it. And part of the
Oh,
first time I got to do that was they have the Black Cat Ball, and sometimes they'll hold it at Westminster. And so part of the, like, if you get the VIP package, they do a tour down there. And I've been down there a couple times, but the first time they had a Poe actor named David Kelts, and he's amazing. and they had church pews set up. There are all these graves around, and he was reciting the Cask of Amontillado down there, and it was just like, oh, it was amazing. So if you ever get a chance to go down underneath, it's worth it. It's really neat.
That would be a horror trip in itself,
Absolutely.
especially if you go at
We never got to
nighttime.
go in the catacombs when Jeff and I were. I didn't even know that was an option.
Yes. Oh,
There
We
you
got to
go.
go back to Baltimore.
yeah,
Yes, uh-huh.
you need to check it out because it's amazing. And the original, like it looks like almost like a Poe coin. It's what used to be on his gravestone, um, is down there. So you can see that too. But it's creepy, especially at night, which is awesome.
That's my
Yeah,
kind of jam right there.
a dozen years ago or so, we saw Jeffrey Combs do his one-man show of Poe at the downtown Nashville Public Library.
Oh, that would have
We,
been
It
we
was
were
amazing.
on
there.
Poe's birthday, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. We were
Carmen
there.
and Jeanie, were you at that?
No,
I don't remember. We went to the one, well, Carmen got to go to the one man Poe at the Hermitage.
Yeah, I was at
Uh,
that one too.
okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, but I was unable to attend. So hopefully, knock on wood, the next one I'll be able to get there myself.
Yes.
So now, Jeff,
Hmm.
since our last interview of you, I know the couple things have happened. You were interviewed locally, and let's hear all about the things that's happened since the last time you were interviewed. Tell our viewers what's been going on.
Okay. I've spoken on quite a few podcasts lately. Poe
Mhm,
Unplugged, of course, as well as Ghostly Gallery, the Late
mhm,
Late Horror Show, and others. But yesterday, I was interviewed over Zoom for a program called Imaginary Worlds, and it was all about dark shadows. And I think it's going to be sort of an all things considered type of program where a narrator will get the ball rolling and talk about what Dark Shadows is, and then different voices will chime in with their experiences about the show. And it's supposed to be released on May 21st. But then last week, something very, very exciting happened. Have you heard of Kino Lorber? Kino Lorber, a wonderful company that releases DVDs and Blu-rays of all kinds of movies, old movies, more recent movies, cult movies,
mhm.
foreign films, silent films, everything. But Kino Lorber is going to put out many of the Dan Curtis productions on Blu-ray. Now,
Oh.
some of them have come out on DVD and even on Blu-ray from another company, but
Mhm.
this is an upgrade, better resolution,
Mhm.
and so a guy from Atlanta who works for Kino Lorber, and then a cameraman who lives here in Nashville came to my house, and the cameraman set up two different cameras so he could have two angles of me.
Mhm.
And I talked for 3.5 hours
Wow.
um, because Kino Lorber is putting out 11 different Dan Curtis productions, including his late night wide world mystery
Ooh,
episodes, some of which were one night thrillers and others were
mhm,
two-part adaptations of Frankenstein, The Picture of Dorian Gray, The Turn of the Screw, and others.
Mhm.
mhm,
A total of 11. And so they wanted an on-camera introduction for each one that people can watch before they watch the actual movie.
Mhm.
So obviously the guy's going to cut down everything I said and make it like just 5 or 6 minutes
Mhm.
of a
mhm,
little introduction. But he was very pleased with everything I told him. He said I gave him a wealth of information that he believes the viewers will like and appreciate as they watch these Dan Curtis productions. Two of which are the two TV pilots called Dead of Night. One was in 1969, shown on ABC once, shot on videotape. And the more popular one, which has been on the movies TV network and Svengoolie on MeTV recently is Dead of Night, 1977, which was Dan Curtis and Richard Matheson's trilogy, a similar trilogy to Trilogy of Terror, with one time travel story and another vampire story, and the last story is terrifying, a story by Matheson called Bobby, in which a woman tries to bring her drowned son back to life.
Yes.
And she succeeds,
That
but
never
she
ends
gets
well.
more than she bargained for. It's kind of like a monkey's paw story. And Curtis remade it in 1996 as one of his stories in Trilogy of Terror 2 that he did for the USA Network. So there are two versions of it. Um, and then some of the others, I don't want to give away everything because Kino Lorber has not announced everything yet, but there are a total of 11 Dan Curtis productions, some well known, and some that need to be much better known because they used good writers and very good actors, done on a low budget but very effectively. A thriller or a supernatural story.
Good.
That's
Well, we got something to look forward to.
Hmm. And
So
may I mention my books?
yes, of
absolutely,
course.
absolutely.
Like Dr. Lampley, whose book about Vincent Price and Poe was an outgrowth of his doctoral dissertation. My first book, The Television Horrors of Dan Curtis, is a reshaping of my PhD dissertation. Both of us were at Middle Tennessee State University in the 2000s, and both of us graduated with our PhDs on the same day in May of 2007. Dr. Lampley first because he is L and I am T. And then we had a party at his house. But the television horrors of Dan Curtis covers all 4 dozen of Curtis's productions. He did more than just horror. He did mysteries, crime dramas, love stories, family dramas, a western, everything. But it focuses more on the horror productions. But my friend Jim Pearson of Dan Curtis Productions and the Dark Shadows Festival shared with me so many wonderful rare pictures of Curtis's films that I used only a fraction of them in that book, and I wanted the fans to see all of these rare pictures. So I said, well, I'm going to have to write another book so I can show more of these pictures. So I wrote House of Dan Curtis, focusing on the mysteries and crime dramas, some of which are going to come out on Blu-ray from Kino Lorber.
Cool.
And the title is a play on the name of the movie House of Dark Shadows, but I was trying to evoke the production house of Dan Curtis. And then a fan friend of mine said, well, if you've written House of Dan Curtis, you're going to have to write Night of Dan Curtis. So I wrote Nights, plural, of Dan Curtis. And this one focuses on all of Curtis's epics that we spent many nights in front of the TV watching. The Winds of War, the War in Remembrance, his 2 World War II miniseries, as well as his fantastic adaptation with Richard Matheson of Dracula, starring Jack Palance, and his one and only Western, which was one of his personal favorites, and his UFO miniseries, Intruders, They Are Among Us. So the first and third of my books were nominated for a Rondo Award. I was thrilled about that. I hope one day to win one of those. Recently I've spoken, with several interviewers and podcasts about these books and Curtis in general. And then lately I've also written some articles for websites or upcoming books about Dark Shadows in general, or the Dark Shadows comic books, which I have been reading and studying since I was a teenager, or the wonderful Dark Shadows star Laura Parker, who played the witch Angelique. She died in 2023, and last summer in Los Angeles, the fans and the Dark Shadows stars gathered for a day of remembrance for her, a memorial service where the stars and the fans spoke. And then the next day of the 2-day event was in honor of what would be the 100th birthday of Jonathan Frid, who played Barnabas Collins. He was born in 1924 and died in 2012. some months after he had gone to England to film a brief cameo in the Tim Burton Johnny Depp movie Dark Shadows.
Mm.
And Jonathan Frid died just a month before the movie came out.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's sad, but he
And
got
one
to
other,
have one last. Go ahead,
yeah.
sorry.
Oh yeah, four Dark Shadows stars appear briefly in the party scene in that movie. Laura
Mhm.
Parker, Jonathan Frid, David Selby, Quentin Collins, and Catherine Lee Scott, who played Maggie and Josette. And
Mhm.
by the way, you've noticed I call Dr. Lampley Dr. Lampley. He and I are
Mhm.
very close friends. We've known each other for decades, but my son is named Jonathan. So, kind of like what you do with your husband and me, I
Yep.
call my son Jonathan Jonathan, and I call the esteemed Dr. Lampley Dr. Lampley.
Uh, I understand. Understand. It gets into a
Yes.
habit, like I said, between now I call her husband sometimes El Jefe. Yeah, so because sometimes I get his name and our other friend's husband mixed up, and they're not anywhere near. It's not they're both Jeffs. One's Kevin's, one's Jeff, but I just interchange them half the time. So
Yes.
it's easy to do and makes it simple. But I'm so proud that to know that there's going to be some new old I guess we call release some new old coming back with the Blu-ray, and that the new generation I think is what I'm excited about, being
Yeah.
able to see the wonders that we grew up with. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing that, Dr. Jeff and Dr. Lampley. What are you up to? Anything coming up new? Any new writing coming out
Uh,
anytime soon?
I am still uh, piddling around with
Mhm.
a magnum opus that I really need to get completed. But unlike Larry and Jeff, I have quite a bit of a time consumer. It's called Young Children.
Ah,
Uh,
yes,
Much younger than
yes.
you expect of a man my age, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. So, uh, but some years ago, I set a project
Mhm.
to watch and write up all of the Best Picture winners for the
Oh,
Academy Awards.
Oh, okay.
And now I had seen all of them. There's a couple that I haven't seen. I haven't seen Honora, for example,
hmm
that one for 2024. And there's a couple of others I haven't gotten around to.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to
right.
hunt them down. But ultimately, I'm hoping to do a book about that, basically exploring the idea of what Best Picture winners have truly stood the test of time.
hmm
So, there are some that everybody knows even after all of these years, like Gone with the Wind
Mm-hmm.
hmm
or Casablanca,
The Sound of Music,
The
Titanic.
Sound of Music,
Yes.
and then several from the 90s people still know, Titanic and The Silence of the Lambs and so forth.
hmm
And so the question, and of course, many times the film that wins is not the best film of the year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there are many years when we look back now from the passage of decades, almost a century in some cases, and we're like, what were they thinking?
hmm
Uh, so I'm hoping to do something with that, but it's and I've got everything I've seen is written up. But I've
hmm
got to expand it to make it long enough
Mm-hmm.
so that McFarland or some other publisher would be interested in it. I don't think it needs. There's a couple of films that need to be added, and it needs to be expanded. And I need to look into the possibility of getting some illustrations for it.
And I still am hoping that you will do a revised second edition of your Poe and Price book, because a lot has happened since you wrote that, including the Vincentennial, of
Yes, I'm
which
wearing this.
both
Let
you
me
and
see if I can get it
Larry
on
were
the.
participants. Oh, look.
Can
Oh,
y'all
right.
see that?
Yeah.
Yes. Very cool. I
Yeah,
love
both
it.
of you guys were
That was
there.
in St. Louis, and I got to meet Roger Corman. We had actually met Roger at a FanX,
Mm-hmm.
or one of the things that
Yeah.
Gary and Sue Spila put out.
Mm-hmm.
And I presented him with a copy of the book. I don't know if he ever read it or not.
Mhm.
Probably not. Uh,
You never know.
but he had it. He didn't sue me, so I guess that's a good sign, one way or the other.
Well, that is a good sign. Yes.
Although Roger, he seems to be a director who took his academic criticism kind of seriously. But beginning of the
Mhm.
late '60s and '70s, a lot of pretty major studies of his work was done.
Mhm.
So I would think he would appreciate,
Yeah.
someone looking at it beyond. It was scary. It wasn't scary. I liked it. I
Yeah.
didn't like it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But in any event, hopefully the Academy Award book will see the light of day one of these days.
Yeah. I think
I'd be interested in that.
fascinating to read. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Larry, what did you do at Vincentennial?
I didn't go to the Bicentennial.
Oh, I thought you were there. Oh, okay. I
Uh,
didn't get to go either.
I would love to have gone.
Yeah,
As you know,
well, I
prices.
wish they would do a Vincentennial plus 15 next year. Next
Mhm.
year is 15 years since the Vincentennial. So there needs to
Wow.
be another celebration of Vincent Price there in his hometown. He was born in St. Louis, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And speaking of monster kids, Victoria Price, his daughter, has won a
Mhm.
rondo as a
Mhm.
monster kid. And of course, Jeff, you know that Catherine Lee Scott is in the Monster Kid Hall of Fame,
Yes.
isn't she?
Yes, she
From Dark
was
Shadows.
inducted into the Monster Kid Hall of Fame along with Larry and others just earlier this week. Catherine
Mhm.
Lee Scott really is sort of the standard bearer and flag waver for Dark Shadows because she has written many books about her experiences on the show and making the movie House of Dark Shadows and other topics about her life and novels too about her experiences as an actor. So yeah, I was thrilled to see that Catherine was inducted because she really does a lot to keep Dark Shadows alive. And of course, she was Dark Shadows back then because she was one of the most popular actresses on the show, playing the plum roles of Maggie Evans in the present
Mhm.
time and Barnabas's lost love, Josette Dupre, in the past.
Yeah. It's good the recognition is still going after all these years. So that's wonderful.
Yeah,
So,
it seems to be growing. I think yesterday the interviewer asked me that. He said, "Is the fandom growing?" And I said, "Yes. It's a strong fandom, just like Star Trek and Doctor Who,
I think
and
mhm.
more and more people who weren't even born back when the show was on are discovering it and loving it because
Mhm.
all of the episodes are on DVD, but the shows run on a Tubi channel and a Pluto channel. And then there have been latter-day comic books and mini books and the big Finnish audio dramas from England.
Mhm.
All of us my age were children and teenagers when the show was on, but now little kids and teenagers love Dark Shadows along with their parents and grandparents.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's really, I think, very neat. And I had always wanted to watch it. I was born in 71, so missed that boat to be alive then. And I told Dr. Jeff I had just finished it earlier, let's say end of the year. And I can't get enough of it. I want to go back and start rewatching it again. And it took me a year and a half to watch everything. I
Hmm.
wanted to focus on it really, and I just couldn't get enough. But I think they're doing a Dark Shadows event at Lyndhurst in July, and Catherine is
Yes,
going to
around
be
July
there.
20th, Catherine Lee Scott is going
Yes,
to be there along with some of the other actresses,
yes,
Marie Wallace, Nancy Barrett, Sharon Smith. And Lyndhurst is the historic home on the banks of the Hudson River in Tarrytown, New York, where the two Dark Shadows movies were filmed, House of Dark Shadows and Night of Dark Shadows. And so there's going to be a tour of the mansion, including the tower room, which figures prominently in Night of Dark Shadows, and a cocktail party and question and answers and autographs and costumes and things like that. So yeah, that's coming up in July.
Yeah, which is
Very cool. Yeah. And so, Larry, let's move on. What is going on with you coming up? Anything new? Because you still doing the show, right? I mean, I know you said you were going to be in Louisville and you're going to be showing that movie. I don't say it out loud unless you don't want me to, because you haven't decided yet. I know. Okay.
No, that's
So,
not
okay,
yeah,
he's going to be showing the tarantula, right? Is
Tarantula
that
with John Agar.
tarantula? Yeah.
Yeah.
So any of you with arachnophobia, don't go watch that one, but you might want to go hang out with Larry. But
Well, he's
just to be
doing
there.
another live show at the studio at Nashville State on June 28th.
oh neat.
That's
Okay.
yeah, cool.
There's always a live audience there, and a rock band and everything like that.
Oh, awesome. So
So
do you have anything else in the works you want to let us in on?
well, I do, not to be outdone by my two cohorts here. I have written a book myself, and
Yes.
Jeff is my editor, as a matter of fact. It's
Nice.
on TV Horror Hosts of Nashville, going back from Sir Cecil Creep, from Dr. Lucifer, all the way up to myself and all the hosts in between from the 1950s to today. And I am working on a companion documentary for that.
Okay.
Ooh,
Oh, that's
that's
wonderful.
awesome.
Both of them will be hopefully out at some point soon. The book is finished. I'm using it as the sort of the template for putting together the documentary, which I've been shooting interviews for a couple of years now.
Okay.
And the
Nice.
book is outstanding. I loved every minute of it, and learned so much about horror hosts with whom I was familiar somewhat already, and then horror hosts that I somehow missed or didn't know much about at all. So the book is a wonderful accomplishment with great photographs and a wonderful cover. And I was honored to write the foreword to the
Nice.
book. Since I was good friends with Ken Bramming, Dr. Lucifer, when we worked together at WAMB.
Very nice.
Nice.
And so, Larry, you
Well,
said the book is out already, or is it's
No.
coming out soon?
I'm holding it because, as you know, once you release something, then it becomes public knowledge, and everybody out there will be rushing to make videos. And what there is this crazy fandom for Sir Cecil Creep to this day, from 1971 to today. It is wild. You say his name. So at the induction ceremony for the marker that we had, the mayor of Nashville was there, and the historic commission was there, and Jessica Reeves, from the historic commission, she said, "I've never seen anything like this. If you mention Sir Cecil Creep's name, people's faces light up," and they do. It is pretty neat.
That is.
So, considering the fact that I'm releasing photographs that people have never seen and a lot of information that's never been released about, unearthed about Russ and all the other hosts, I'm just going to hold on to it and put them out together so that nobody else takes my information and makes a documentary. Says, I should do this. It's like, yeah, you should. Somebody should. Me.
And that makes perfect sense because in my mind, I was thinking that would be a great companion to have the book and the documentary at the same time. So that way you could read the book and then you could see for yourself and, put more reality to it, not just what you're reading. So I'm going to be excited about it coming out.
Thank you. Although, and they sort of have different approaches, because I've interviewed a lot of folks like Jeff, for instance, who tell stories more than reading facts. It makes sense. So
yeah, absolutely. So, one question I have is with you guys knowing each other for as long as you have and you've done some events together, do you have an event that you felt like really was like a big impact on just what you do in your own, with like the books you have written or things you're doing within the horror world and that kind of thing? Or just something that is the most memorable that you did together?
The three of us
Mhm.
together.
Yes.
Or at least two of us.
Yes.
Have we
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
something at the same time, all three of us?
Okay.
I don't think
Mhm.
so,
So
except,
this is the first time?
all of us have been guests at Mark Ballard's comics and sci-fi
Right.
conventions here
Okay.
in
Mhm.
Nashville.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we've all three been on camera together, isn't it?
Yes, or on a panel together.
Nice.
Nice.
Dr. Lampley and I have been on many panels together at PCAS and at
Fan X and other
FanX
conventions.
and at the local conventions from Mark Ballard. David Hedison, star of The Fly, was a guest, and we were on a panel with him and a woman who had written a book about him.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I would say all of the times that we've gone to PCAS together or FanX, often we have traveled together
Mhm.
and just made a trip out of it, and then the Chris Clark interview and the WAMB interview were great, and then with
That Chris Clark thing may be my favorite, just
yes,
because we grew up with him, and he
hmm
is still is quite a movie buff.
hmm
He owned
and
that theater in Hendersonville for a while.
Okay.
oh yes,
That's actually where I saw Star Crash with Caroline Monroe. We
oh
went all the way to Hendersonville to see it at Chris Clark's theater.
I hosted Star Crash at Wonderfest with Carolyn Monroe.
Oh,
oh.
wonderful.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
And I enjoyed the interviews that Larry and his cameraman did with me here at my house in the year 2000, but I really enjoyed coming back 2 decades later to the
Mhm.
fabulous television studio on the campus of Nashville State Community College where Larry does his programs. And we talked about Scream of the Wolf and Dan Curtis and my books, and so that to me was very uptown, to be on a wonderful professional TV show like that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that station is nice, and the live shows that Jeff mentioned that we're doing now are a lot of fun. So, like you said, the next one's coming up in July, end of July
I think
28th.
June 28th, isn't it?
June 28th. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, June 28th. Yeah. Um,
I was
so
at the
yeah,
one
we're
on
lucky.
March 8th when you showed a creature from the swamp. Was that the name of it?
Black Lake. Creature
Creature
from Black
from
Lake.
Black Lake. Yes,
Right.
right.
Now, Larry, is there a particular social media platform that people can follow and make sure to find where all your things are happening? So lay that on us so we can share it out to all our peoples.
Sure, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. That's probably the best one, or X, or you can find me on YouTube.
Mhm.
I'm pretty active over there, and I did a Vincent Price series where I
Okay.
reviewed every Vincent Price movie, every Vincent Price feature film from first to last.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
wonderful.
And
even
is
I
it
can't say that I've seen every Vincent Price movie.
It's called the Fantastic Films of Vincent Price, and
Nice.
And you have
it
your
is
own
more.
website too.
It is approaching them less from a scholarly perspective, more like Jonathan was talking about from a fan perspective, more from.
Yeah.
But I say that, but really I talk about the plot of each movie and I kind of dissect them a little bit. So it's kind of half and half. It's exactly what Jonathan was talking about.
Sometimes you show collectibles.
Yeah.
nice? So is it going to be under Dr. Gangrene or under Larry Underwood?
Dr. Gangrene for all of them.
Okay.
All right,
Right.
perfect. That's good to know. And Jonathan, is there any any social media that you want to share out to the fans so they can find out your work other than your book? I know it's on Amazon. So is there other things that people can hunt you down for
Well,
and
there is
follow
a
you?
Jonathan Lampley website, but it defunct right now.
Ah,
More
But
of
like
a
I said, I have uh, I'm active in a couple of Facebook groups.
Mhm.
We have I Love Scream and Scream Again, another very
mhm.
divisive movie, one of my all-time favorites. I Love Dracula AD 1972, which is the first of the Hammer Draculas with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing in modern
Mhm.
times, and Caroline Munro.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, and Things like that.
Well,
And I'm on Facebook, of course.
Mhm.
Mhm.
whenever a celebrity in our genre dies, you do a wonderful write-up and put it on
Oh,
Facebook.
yes.
And then at the end of the year, you put it all together, and it's a magnum opus of everybody in science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and comics, and everything who has died in the past year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, maybe you can have me back on at the beginning of 2026 and we could
Yeah.
go over that.
Yeah,
Because I do need to
good
promote
idea.
that more. It's
We
an
should
awful lot
do
of
that.
work
Yeah.
that basically my Facebook friends and just a few other people get to see. But
Mhm.
I rank the top 20 uh, fanboy passages.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, and then I give honorable mentions to everybody else. And that's one of my things. I'm a addict to making lists and
Ah,
ranking things.
Mhm.
oh,
And
cool.
but I'll and if you want me to click on your spam and infect my computer, send me something that says, vampire movies ranked, Rolling Stone songs ranked, uh,
Oh,
uh, Civil War generals ranked, any of the things I'm into, and it's like, you know, meth and crack
explosions.
together for
Yes.
me.
Well, I've
Uh,
got a John Agar movie ranking on YouTube. You need to go check out.
I will
Oh,
definitely check that out. That's the sort of thing I just love.
Mhm.
But one of the things, of course, any list that anybody makes, their personal tastes and experience are so much a part of it.
Mhm.
But I put a lot of effort into ranking my people, not just because I like them or
Mhm.
don't like them
Mhm.
or whatever. So, for example, so far for 2025, and it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to replace him as number one on the list, but David Lynch.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
just such an important filmmaker
Yeah.
and did so much.
Yeah.
He was even in animated form on the American Dad show that
Yeah.
Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane did,
Yes. Mhm.
or the Cleveland show. I think that was the one he was on.
Okay.
But so it's going to be hard to knock him off the list. But of course, Val Kilmer is way up there,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
uh, and uh, so I try to rank them. Some people have a lot of genre credits, but they're not considered genre superstars.
Yeah.
Right.
So, for example, someone else who will be very high on the list is Gene Hackman. I
Mhm.
don't think
Absolutely.
most people consider him a genre specialist, but everybody knows Lex Luthor and the
Well,
Superman film.
Yes, that is
mhm.
very true.
absolutely.
And
Mhm.
and I don't think you can underestimate the importance of the Christopher Reeve Superman films on
Mhm.
our modern superhero and comic book movies. That
Yeah.
that they getting Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman and people like that to be in Superman
Yeah.
Mhm.
really did open the way uh, for us to get the sort of entertainment we have today
I
with the
agree.
Jonathan,
movies and TV shows and everything.
crossing over with something you were talking about earlier. I am obsessed with the French Connection. I probably watch that
Mm.
movie 5 or 6 times a year.
It's
I can't.
really
I
good.
don't know what it is about that film, but it's just I love the cinematography, the look,
Mhm.
seeing New York in the 1970s. And
Oh, yeah.
Hackman is so good in that. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great movie.
That wonderful
Uh,
scene where they're getting on and off the subway.
Mhm.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Yeah.
And so, Jeff, you, we know that I know personally you're on Facebook, and because you have your Dark Shadows fandom that you follow through and have all that. Now, I know you're also on Instagram, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. I
Okay.
joined Instagram earlier this year. I haven't put much on it yet, except
Mm-hmm.
pictures of me and pictures of the three books. But
Okay.
a lot of people follow me, so I guess I need to put more on.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good to know. And one other thing that we can actually say that we're going to see you guys again. Unfortunately, Larry is going to be in audio only, but he's still going to be joining us next Saturday on May the 17th for our first Nashville Doomsday event, which is a readathon of Mr. Edgar Allan Poe's greatest, well, not his greatest. All of his hits are great. So I guess his greatest hits. Let's just call them the greatest hits.
Yeah.
So, and
There's
they're
some
going to be
deep cuts
joining
on there
us.
too, if I remember the list correctly.
There, what?
Uh,
What?
there's some deep tracks on that one too, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some things even I've never read.
Okay.
There's going
So
to be
I'm
a
looking
lot.
forward to that.
Yeah. Our friend
Cool.
Derek Martin is going to be a reader also.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you
Yes.
can come join us next Saturday. We're going to be live on our YouTube channel
Yes.
at Poe Unplug 3978.
From
I think I got
11
those
to 7, 11 to 7 Central Time, 11 a.m.
exact.
to 7 p.m. Central Time.
Yes. So
Yeah, we did
please,
hmm,
no,
yeah.
go ahead.
We did an event similar to this back on March 29th, and it was wonderful.
Mhm.
People, came in from all over the country and read. But and on a week from tomorrow, May 17th, aren't people all over the world going to be reading Poe
They
at this time?
they are
There.
National Poe Edgar Allan Poe Theater, uh,
Mhm.
run by Alex Zavostovich out of Baltimore, Maryland. They do theater, they do Poe on the Air, and
Mhm.
he started this 4 years ago. And they raise money for themselves, and they do 24 hours. We wanted to start with 8 to
Yeah.
kind of
We
dip
ease
our
into it.
toes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he, after a couple of years, last year they had people from England, Brazil, I think,
Paris.
yeah, and Paris join them. And so this year he's like, well, let's get some other people in the United States besides the people from over in Europe and South America and things like that. And so there's going to be our representation from Tennessee, and there's going to be an Ohio representation as well. I don't think he was able to get a California
Mm-mm.
group. And so, but
Not this year.
his goal is to grow it and get more and more people doing this on that day. And the goal is to read Poe consistently for 8 to 24 hours. And you can raise money for any kind of charity, your own group or whatever. And so since Poe loved animals, we just decided that the Nashville Humane Association, Dr. Jeff helped us with that decision
Yeah.
and raise money for that. So
Mhm.
it's very exciting.
Yes, and it's going to be exciting. Like Jonathan said, there's things that's going to be read that I think people may not even know that
Yes.
Poe wrote, and know anything, or never probably ever read them or heard them. So it's
Hmm.
going to be a great time, and it's going to be 8 hours back to back of nothing but reading Poe.
Yes.
So
Yep.
please come join us, and the panel here is going to be part of our in person, because unlike like Dr. Jeff was talking about our poetry event, that we even had someone from Ireland to join in. This one is just for Middle Tennessee people, and it's just us.
Yes.
So there's going to be like 3, I think, recorded videos because they're not going to be able to actually be in the spot. But the rest of us, we're going to be live and on location.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
What I'm really excited about is Dr. Jeff is starting out the day, and I hope are you going to do Telltale Heart first?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yay!
Well,
Love it.
yeah,
no.
yes, I would. Well, I don't know. Maybe I should read the
Yeah.
3 poems first and end with the
That's
Telltale
true.
Heart.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I'll do
That's true.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be just however you want to do it, but we know you're doing Telltale Heart and we can't wait.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's on my Facebook page. If you go down a little bit, you'll see the video with the 3 of us,
Yes.
and I read the story and the poem Annabelle Lee.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Yay.
gonna be great.
Yes.
We're excited and we hope to raise a lot of money for the Nashville Humane Association. That's one of our main goals. And we thank all 3 of you for joining us on this Poe discussion. It was wonderful to get to know Larry and Jonathan and Jeff as usual. It is just awesome that we come across you at actually what was the movie? Do you remember? Was it Psycho?
Yeah, we
Psycho.
met at Full Moon Cineplex in Hermitage,
Yes.
Tennessee, when Stacy and Ben were showing Psycho 2.
Yes.
Yes, Psycho
One
2,
of
that's
the
right.
best sequels ever made.
Absolutely.
I love Psycho 2.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we were-
and Ben came over to me and said, "Well, there are 2 ladies over here that you need to know. I want you to know them." And so he introduced us, and that's how I got started attending your monthly Zoom meeting, where we talk about a poem or story every month.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's been a great friendship that's been building and networking, and now we've got 2 more that's adding on to our great associations, and we're glad that you guys are joining us, and we hope you will come back. And Jonathan, definitely in 2026 we will definitely want you on the show so you can share with us your list of the 2025 greats, unfortunately, that may have passed or have passed. And Larry, hopefully we can come join you in Louisville sometime or wherever you might be hosting your, what's it called again?
Or come to Nashville. It's much closer to one of my live shows.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, yeah,
I would
yeah, that's
love
it.
to do that. How do we make that happen?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I will be announcing on my social medias when they are. There's June 28th. There's one in. Hang on, I've got a list here somewhere. September. It's up there somewhere. September and one in November. So live studio audience. We have a video projector. The audience watches the movie as it's playing, and then we, as it's being broadcast, and then we're able to pause it live, and we do the host bits live. I'll have guests, and there's a live band that plays, and so you see it as it's being broadcast.
Okay. Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, just look out. You'll probably see us in the audience going, woohoo! Except if you have to show anything with arachnids. It ain't happening. Okay.
Well, and you're on necat.org, right? NECAT.org.
I think that's their website. Easiest place for folks that don't have Comcast in Nashville to see my show is on the Roku. If you have a Roku, you can.
I do.
Yeah, NECAT has a channel on Roku that is basically just a simulcast of their TV stations.
Okay.
So my show comes on Saturday nights at 9:00.
Okay.
So Saturday night at 9, you pull up the NECAT Roku channel and you can watch it.
But your live shows start at 7, right?
The live shows start at 7. So that what we do is we do it live from 7 to 9, and then they are able to run it again a second time, rerun at 9 immediately after.
Right.
Awesome. Well, that's definitely something we will look forward to doing. At least I will. I'll catch it on my Roku, and Carmen will probably catch it on hers. And well, gentlemen, once more, I would like to say thank you for joining us, and hopefully we can do this again soon. Oh, that's right, we will. Next Saturday, May the 17th.
The countdown is on for Doomsday.
Exactly. Doomsday 2025 with the Poe-tastic peoples.
Yes, absolutely.
And with that, Carmen, we are Poe
Oh,
out.
ow.
Ow.